and be honest. Can you admit that's what you're doing? You're not just a workaholic. You're not just a really fast worker. You're not just high energy. What is motivating all of this? And it might be that you're a people pleaser. Hi guys, my name is Ruth Ann. I'm a personal support worker and the owner of Forest City Home Care. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about being a people pleaser as well as being a personal support worker. People pleasers are people who define their worth through the perception of other people. So they only feel as good as you perceive them to be. If you don't think they're good, they don't feel good. People pleasers will find themselves doing a lot of favors and going above and beyond in a lot of ways in order to satisfy that normal human need to feel appreciated and to feel valid in society. People who have a tendency to give more than they have to give, to overexert themselves, these people might be drawn to a profession like personal support work and other service work where you can help people and make a difference in people's lives. Nursing, drawn to a field that's going to help satisfy your need to give and then be appreciated for that value. So here are just a few traits to look out for. So if you're a people pleaser and you know who you are, you could find yourself being a little bit of a workaholic in the sense that you get so much value in the thank yous you get and the difference you can see that you've made in other people's lives is just addictive to anybody, but especially to a person that has a rocky foundation and who they are and what their value is. How we perceive ourselves often stems from our role in our family. Were we a scapegoat? Were we a golden child? Who were we in this family dynamic? And what effect did it have on us? If you were a kid that had to stand on your head and spit coins to get mom and dad's attention, you could grow up to be the kind of person who feels like the only appreciation you're gonna get from society is by the value you bring. You're hungry to fill your cup, like most humans are, and to recognize where they fit in society and what they bring to the table. You could find yourself overdoing it, just going over the top, coming in too early, staying too late, working through breaks, completely spreading yourself thin because every thank you fills your cup and makes you feel more valid as a human. For a person who was neglected or abused or somehow traumatized into feeling like they are only as good as they could give or as good as they could buy or as good as they could sell. You come into work and you want to be relevant, and so you take on maybe more work than you need to. You go too far and you do too much and you don't realize you're burning out, but those thank yous you get and the appreciation you get kind of makes it all worth the while. Another thing people pleasers might do is work exceptionally fast because you don't want to be called lazy. Being a hard worker brings you value. So you might work relentlessly. Because you finished your share so quickly, you will take on additional work or assist someone else with their work. And by the end of the shift, you may have done an enormous amount of work that was never really expected of you. And what's driving all this? Why are you working so hard and why are you willing to burn out for this? You're having a hard time differentiating between your work being an extension of who you are and who you are. Who you are was always good from the day you were born. You were always good enough. And the way people treated you didn't really actually impact your value. It only impacted how you felt about your value. So let that cook. You are as valuable today as the day you were born. And nothing about the way you were treated had anything to do with your worth. Whether you believed that you were just a scapegoat or you were just a problem child or you were just whatever. The other thing about being a people pleaser is that you're living in constant anxiety because it matters so much to you how people perceive you. You're not just worried about doing a great job with every person you care for that day. You're worried about every other PSW and how you interact with them. You're worried about every nurse that you interact with and how they perceive you. Are you doing good? Are they liking you? Are you a favorite? Are you not? Oh no, I don't like how that person looked at me. Maybe I did something wrong. I better work harder. So if this sounds familiar to anyone, then you can relate to this level of anxiety that one might put on themselves. Without realizing it, they're putting too much of their self-worth on their performance at work. If you're anxious and worried about what everyone thinks, well, there's a lot of people. It's just an enormous amount of stress. As long as you can't get past this idea that other people's opinions of you are crucial, you're gonna live in a constant state of anxiety. And if you can't get a grip on this, it's gonna lead to depression. You're just gonna feel so overwhelmed with how you can't keep up with your expectations of yourself. And it's kind of a whole thing you created yourself. Whatever your situation was, maybe there were actual circumstances that occurred in your life that turned you into a person who doesn't really feel like they fit in just because, or that they're accepted just because, but they have to somehow prove why they should get to be there. If you're coming into a field like personal support work with some of these wounds left unhealed, it really could bring you down a path where you burn out. You're working too hard. You're burning out because you're working too fast. You're burning out emotionally. Now you're depressed from all the anxiety of trying to please so many people at once, never sure of yourself. All right? People out there need you right now. So your health is incredibly important right now. And it's not your fault. Start the healing process in your life by becoming aware of some of the patterns which are throwing off the balance of your life. Where you're compromising your balance would be starting your work early, working through your breaks, working really quickly and therefore taking on so much more than needed to be on your plate, and then never being quite sure how you're impacting people. How are you doing? You not every day will you get feedback on your performance, and if you're somebody who defines yourself through the value other people express to you, then it's gonna be really depressing if you think you're not scoring all the points you need to be scoring. It's gonna create anxiety. Anxiety is gonna lead to depression. Depression's gonna lead to burnout, and burnout's gonna lead to less personal support workers out there on the field making a difference in the world. And it's a shame because you have this natural inclination to want to care for, nurture, be kind to people, and just spread light in people's lives. You have that natural inclination, but you have a little bit of healing that's needed, where you need to check yourself and look at those patterns where you over-exasperate yourself for the approval of others, and be honest. Can you admit that? Can you admit that that's what you're doing? You're not just a workaholic. You're not just a really fast worker. You're not just high energy. What is motivating all of this? And it might be that you're a people pleaser, and it comes from a broken place in you, a broken little child in you that tells you that you need to do more, be more, act more, give more, spend more to be accepted. And that's never been the case. Heal, do the work, talk to professionals if you need to, read books. If you don't have anyone to talk to, there's no excuse. Go to the bookstore and get a book or two. Or go to a library where you can borrow them for free. There's no excuse. This information's out there, and you can heal. If something's not working in your life, if there's some sort of unhappiness creeping in your life, like you're overly exhausted at work, you don't feel appreciated at work, you're doing more than other people at work, then these are all indicators. Your life is trying to tell you that you're not 100% happy with the choices you're making. So you gotta make a different choice. It's just that simple, and the good news is it's all in your hands. Give yourself permission to be efficient and effective at your work without compromising yourself in any way, as a mutually beneficial exchange. When you go to work, you're going to give your best and you're going to be compensated in exchange for it, and that ought to be balanced. You're going to start to feel resentment about how much you're earning. You're just doing so much more. Why should you be paid what the next person's being paid? My name's Ruth Ann. I'm a personal support worker and the owner of Forest City Home Care. Happy New Year.